Stages in accident investigation. What are those various stages or the steps involved in investigation of accident? One is interview. Interview has to do with going to the accident scene, asking questions. What led to what? By so doing, the accident investigator will be able to get a detailed analysis of what happened and what led to the accident. And another one, number two, is observation. Observation has to do with going to the accident scene, making observations. Not necessarily asking questions, but making your personal observations, looking around, trying to observe, and then recording your findings. And then the next stage of accident investigation and reporting is documentation. Documentation simply means putting it down in writing, documenting it on paper. So these are the stages of accident investigation. After an accident has been investigated and then reported, there is need for follow-up. There is need for review. Reviewing has to do with time to time interval of checking those things that led to that particular accident. Is there any form of such act, such unsafe act, reoccurring back? If, for example, an accident occurred in time past due to, or should I put it this way, a worker not putting on PPE. Now, in reviewing, one has to look at this. Are workers not putting on their PPE in the course of discharging this task? So, follow-up has to do with reviewing time to time that accident to prevent reoccurrence. Ensuring that those things that led to that accident before are not being repeated. There are also caution that one has to take, especially if you're an accident investigator. And one of those cautions is this: do not put yourself in the role of a policeman. Do not put yourself in the role of a policeman. One might be asking, what does that mean? Don't try to force information out. That's not how to go about it. Don't use force. You can't get genuine information applying force. And don't intimidate. And do not start with paper and pen in your hands. Don't start with paper and pen in your hands. Why? It will create an impression that to the person giving you feedback, such a person will not be able to give detailed analysis of what he or she knows regarding the accident. And another caution is to avoid pin blame. Avoid pin blame. What do you mean by that? Avoid blame game. Okay, this is what caused the accident. This is who is at fault. So person is at fault. As an accident investigator, you don't do that. All your findings should be documented and reported. You are not to pin blame. Who is at fault? Every of your recommendations should be written down. Your recommendations, your findings should be documented. In conclusion, we will look at some accident investigators toolkit. Some accident investigators toolkit. What are those tools that as an accident investigator you need to have, or while going to the field or to the accident scene to carry out accident investigation? What are the tools that one needs in his or her possession? Number one is relevant PPE. As an accident investigator, you need relevant PPE. Of course, as you are going to investigate accident, you also need to keep yourself safe. Remember, there's one of the slogan, safety slogan, that says safety first. So you as an accident investigator, you have to ensure your safety as you are going to the accident scene to carry out your investigation. In other words, your safety is paramount. You ensure your safety first before you can embark on investigation, especially accident investigation. As an accident investigator, as you are going to the accident scene, of course, there are some PPE that you will need. One of them is safety boot. The reason being that going to the accident scene, there might be some objects that can cause injury. Talk about sharp metals, particles, those things that has capability of causing injury. So when an accident investigator does not put on safety boots, he or she might be exposed to those hazards, especially the cut hazard. And another PPE needed by this accident investigator is the hand gloves. The hand gloves, the eye goggle, the helmet, very important. There are also others like the signage tape, that is the caution tape, and the rest. Why do we need caution tape? We need caution tape to create a barrier within the accident investigation scene. You use the caution tape to barricade the accident investigation scene to prevent entry into that scene. And one of the PPE again needed in carrying out accident investigation is the camera. Camera is needed for photographs to take pictures of the accident scene. Next one is the hand gloves. I've mentioned that earlier. And then writing materials. The pen, the pencils, marker, name them. They are all needed. Optionally, which is very important, even though I'm using optionally, but it's very important, is the calculator. Someone might be saying, why do you need a calculator in the accident investigation scene? It sounds so funny, but it's needed. You might want to do some calculations, some additions, some subtractions. And to be more accurate, you need a calculator to do that, to avoid guessing or getting the wrong figures. And of course, you know, as an accident investigator, when you come up or investigate and then table your report with wrong figures, that could be disastrous to your career. And then next one is torchlight. Torch. Yes, you need torch. Why do you need torch? When it gets dark, how do you see? Of course, you need to on your torchlight. In some accident investigation, it can take some extended period of time or extended hours, more than assumed. And in such case, when it gets dark, touch will play a vital role in assisting you carry out your task or duty of accident investigation. And then notebook, which is part of the writing materials. Your pen, your paper, your pencil, your marker, and so many others. At this point, I will not also forget to mention that money is also very important. Money is very important. We might not say it's part of the PPE, but it's very important. Money is required. And then, of course, travel bag. The travel bag will contain all your tools as an accident investigator. All your tools will be packed in the bag. And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of accident or incident investigation and reporting. And in summary, before we proceed, accident investigation and reporting has to be done with consciousness, with carefulness, observation, and in due time. Accident investigation should not be extended beyond the period of time that is being stipulated for carrying out that investigation. We'll proceed further. Having discussed accident investigation and reporting, we'll look at permit to work system. Permit to work system. PTW in abbreviation. Permit to work system. That is PTW in abbreviation. So in health, safety, and environment, when you see PTW, it simply means it's an abbreviation for permit to work system. Now, what is permit to work system? Permit to work system is an authorized document approved by management describing the work to be carried out, the hazard, the potential hazards involved in carrying out that particular work, and the precautions to take while carrying out the task. I will say that again. Permit to work system, by definition, is an authorized document describing the work to be done, the potential hazards involved, and also the precautions to take while carrying out the job or the task. Now, the permit to work, for further illustration, permit to work system, let me use a scenario that we are all familiar with. If you're a driver, you know what is driving license. Permit to work is simply, let me equate it to driving license so that we can all get a picture of what we are talking about. A license is being authorized and it has expiring date. In that license, it's being indicated that so particular person, Mr. AYZ, having been tested and knows the road signs and also understands road signs is worthy of driving on the road without causing risk to himself and to others using the road. Same thing applies to permit to work. It's also an authorized document that shows the work to be carried out, how to carry out the work, the hazards, the potential hazards involved, and also the precautions to take while carrying out the job. So in permit to work system, there are some terms that we are going to be defining. There are some terms like restricted area. Restricted area. What is restricted area? I will use a scenario that we are all familiar with. When you go to your neighborhood and look around, especially when you have transformers, you see a barricade, some iron barricades, and you see a label, see a sign, restricted area. Let me use that to paint a picture of what we're talking about when we talk about restricted area. So what is restricted area now? Restricted area, there are precautions. Is one in which precautions are necessary by reason of the possible presence of combustible, toxic, and harmful materials in such particular place. Of course, just like the transformer I used to give illustration, why do they put a restricted area? It simply means that not everyone is authorized to go to that particular, to enter that restricted area. The only person authorized to enter there is someone who has the permission, who has been trained and understands the hazards, potential hazards in there. And such a person in safety has to obtain what we call permit to work before he or she can work in that particular restricted area. So you can see the relationship between permit to work and restricted area. So for you to work in a restricted area, you have to acquire permit to work. Now, this permit to work system, as I mentioned earlier, has what we call validity. Just like your driver license, it has validity. What do I mean by that? Duration. It has duration. If the permit to work system is assigned to last for 24 hours, it simply means that at the end of 24 hours, if the job is not completed, then you can't use it again because the time has elapsed. You have to go for what we call revalidation. Just like when your driver's license expires, you go and renew it. That's what happens in permit to work. You have to go for revalidation. You have to renew the permit to work before one can use it and work in a restricted area. Another term that is being used in permit to work is what we call non-routine activities. Non-routine activities. What is non-routine activities? Non-routine activities are places whereby work is not usually carried out on a regular basis. There are places where works are carried out only in a case when there is need for maintenance or when there is an emergency. Why? Because that particular area has some kind of hazard and requires someone who has the knowledge, who has been trained, and who also have what it takes to work in that non-routine work area, if I'm to put it that way, non-routine work area. Of course, You know that when you lock a particular place, for example, a house, your house, over 6 months, without getting entrance to that particular house, when you come back there after 6 months and open the door, what do you feel? The air coming out, how do you feel about it? The airs are trapped. They are not conducive, they are not health-wise. What do? You have to open up air the rooms or air the house by opening up the windows and doors. The same thing applies to non-routine work area. Because work is not usually carried out on regular basis, there is air being trapped in that particular work area. It's the precautions. It contains the precautions that one has to take while working in that facility. It carries all the precautions to be taken while working on that facility. The next one is the name of the direct supervisor on site. It contains the name of the direct supervisor on site. The next content of permit to work is the PPE on site. The PPE on site, that is the available PPE provided in that work location for personnel, will also be indicated in the permit to work. And then lastly, the signature of the designated competent person. The signature of the person, of the competent person, has to be in the permit to work, showing that such a person have authorized the work to be carried out in such location, having made available all the PPE needed, also having briefed the personnel on the potential hazards they are going to face and the precautions to take. Having said that, we'll look at the responsibilities under permit to work. There are so many responsibilities. We'll talk about the responsibility of the permit applicant. We'll look at the responsibility of the asset holder site supervisor. That is the person directly in charge on site. We'll also look at the responsibility of the asset holder and the responsibility of the permit holder. I will take them one at a time. The responsibility of permit applicant is to analyze the non-routine work for hazards not specified. Is to analyze the non-routine work for hazards and specific precautions necessary to ensure safe execution of the work. Another responsibility of the permit applicant is to fill in the permit to work form and other relevant complementary documents or certificates. The next one is to agree on hazards analysis and safety precautions. He or she is to agree on the hazards, potential hazards being identified, and the precautions. And then the next one is to instruct permit holder on safe execution of the work. Now we look at the asset holder site supervisor. The responsibility of the asset holder site supervisor. That is the person directly in charge on site. What is his responsibility? His responsibility or functions includes the following. 1. Checks for adequacy of agreed precautions. He checks for adequacy of agreed precautions. Ensures the facility is properly isolated before handing over to permit holder. He checked daily for continued observance of agreed safety precautions before revalidating permit to work. And lastly, he or she checks the site. He checks that site is made safe before accepting work. I can as well put it this way. He ensures a safe work zone before work can start. He ensures a safe work zone. So he checks that site is made safe before accepting work to start. Then asset holder. What are the responsibilities of the asset holder or the functions of asset holder? One is to analyze non-routine work on hazards and agree with the permit applicant on precautions necessary for safety or to safely execute the work. Asset holder analyzes non-routine work on hazards and agrees with the permit applicant on precautions necessary to safely execute the work. That's the function or responsibility of asset holder. We look at the function or responsibility of permit holder. The permit holder is the person designated to supervise the work site. Now, his responsibility includes the following. He liaises with the asset holder site supervisor on proper isolation, purging, and gas testing before work starts. He ensures all necessary safety precautions are in place before he will ask the asset holder site supervisor to revalidate the permit to work and allow work to start. He supervises the work and ensures observance of agreed safety precautions throughout work execution. He ensures the work site is safe. He ensures that the work site is left in a safe site, in a safe state. I beg your pardon. He ensures that the work site is left in a safe state at the close of work or at the change of shift. In other words, he ensures the safety of the work site after work hours or after each shift. Lastly, he or she ensures that work completion is fully agreed with asset holder site supervisor. In summary, what we have discussed so far is permit to work system, which we said is an equipment one to minimize exposure to hazards. I will give an examples of many PPE. We also discussed accident investigation and reporting, and we also looked at permit to work system, which we said is a written document authorized or approved by management describing the work to be carried out, and also the precautions and the potential hazards. At this point, We are coming to the end of today's lecture on health, safety, and environment under the umbrella of Environment and Safety Management Institute Nigeria, your number one HSC training institute. Thank you. I remain AC David.